Article 15, Clause 5. Article 15, Clause 5 was inserted into the Constitution via the Constitution 93rd Amendment Act 2005. Article 15, Clause 5 provides nothing in this article or in subclause G of Clause 1 of Article 19 shall prevent the state from making any special provision by law for the advancement of any socially and educationally backward classes of citizens, or for the scheduled tribes, or for the scheduled castes, insofar as such special provision relate to their admission to educational institutions, including private educational institutions, whether aided or unaided by the state, other than the minority educational institutions referred to in Clause 1 of Article 30. The expression nothing in this article or in Article 19 Clause 1 subclause G provides that Article 15 Clause 5 acts as an exception to Article 15 Clause 1 as well as Article 19 Clause 1 subclause G. Article 15 Clause 5 provides that under Article 15 or under Article 19 Clause 1 subclause G, the state is not prevented from making any special provision relating to the admission of socially and educationally backward classes of citizens, SCs and STs, to the educational institutions, including aided or unaided private educational institutions. Here, Article 15, Clause 5 covers all governmental educational institutions and all aided or unaided private educational institutions, but expressly excludes the minority educational institutions established under Article 30, Clause 1. Article 15, Clause 5 was inserted to promote the directive principles of state policy laid down under Article 46. Under Article 46, the state shall promote with special care the educational and economic interests of the weaker sections of the people, and in particular of the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes, and shall protect them from social injustice and all forms of exploitation. For the first time, a constitutional provision was inserted to share the responsibility of uplifting the educational interests of the weaker sections onto the private educational institutions. Here, the private educational institutions, whether aided or unaided, are obligated to promote the constitutional directive imposed upon the state under Article 46. Here, the private education institutions are required to share the responsibility like government educational institutions in promoting the educational interests of the weaker sections. Private educational institutions, though are not state for the purpose of Article 12 directly, but indirectly by sharing the sovereign function, that is, imparting education through interpretation, falls under the domain of other authority, hence becomes the instrumentality of the state. All institutions which are instrumentality of state and falls under the ambit of Article 12 are having the obligation to fulfill the directions given under Part 4, that is Directive Principles of State Policy. Hence, the private education institutions, either aided or unaided, are having the responsibility to fulfill the directions given under Article 46 of the Constitution. Article 15, Clause 5. By acting as an exception over the fundamental rights guaranteed under Article 15, Clause 1 and Clause 2, as well as Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause G, says that the private educational institutions cannot escape from their liability by arguing that the said state law, which is mandating these educational institutions to make reservations for SCVs, SCs, and STs, is discriminatory on the ground of caste, race, religion, sex, place of birth, or any of them, or the said law is violating their fundamental right to trade, commerce, and intercourse. Now, coming to the expression other than the minority educational institutions referred to in Clause 1 of Article 30. This expression provides that the religious or linguistic minority educational institutions established under Article 30, Clause 1 cannot be mandated by the state through law to reserve seats for the SCVs, SCs, and STs. To understand the logic behind such exclusion of minority educational institutions from the ambit of Article 15, Clause 5, first of all, we need to understand the pre-Constitution 93rd Amendment Act scenario. Mohini Jain versus State of Karnataka. It is the first case wherein the question whether right to education is a part of fundamental right guaranteed under Article 21 was raised. According to the facts of the case, Miss Mohini Jain's admission to the medical college established within the state of Karnataka was cancelled on the ground of non-payment of capitation fee. Miss Mohini Jain contended that Article 21 includes right to education. And further, such right to education protected under Article 21, according to Mohini Jain, includes the right to professional degree. Hence, Mohini Jain contended that cancelling her admission to medical college on the ground of non-payment of capitation fee is a direct violation of her fundamental right to education for a professional degree. The state of Karnataka argued that right to education is not a fundamental right and cannot be construed to be protected under Article 21. According to state of Karnataka, Article 45, which is part of Directive Principles of State Policy, provides that the state shall endeavour to provide early childhood care and education for all children until they complete the age of 14 years. This expression 14 years was there in the Constitution prior to the 86th Amendment Act 2002. So, according to state, even by considering that state is obligated to provide education via Directive Principles of State Policy, that is also for the children up to the age of 14 years, not beyond. Hence, petitioner cannot demand for fundamental right to education in general and fundamental right to education for a professional degree in particular under Article 21. Basing on the facts and the contentions of the petitioner and the state, the Apex Court framed the issue whether a citizen has fundamental right to education for a medical, engineering or other professional degree. Here in this case, the Honorable Supreme Court held that right to education is a fundamental right guaranteed under Article 21. So for the first time, right to education was brought under Article 21. Further, Court, by keeping in mind the Article 45, held that there is no fundamental right to education for a professional degree that flows from Article 21. Finally, Ms. Mohini Jain's petition was dismissed by the court. Though Mohini Jain lost the case, the Honorable Supreme Court had the perfect opportunity to incorporate right to education under the ambit of Article 21. Now coming to Unnikrishnan versus State of AP. In this case, the important case which has been raised was whether primary education, as mentioned in Article 45, is a fundamental right under Article 21. Reiterating the judgment given in Mohini Jain case, the Honorable Supreme Court in Unnikrishnan case held that right to education is fundamental right protected under Article 21. Further expanding the scope of right to education, the court held that right to education incorporated under Article 21 shall be read with Article 41 and Article 45. Article 41 provides for right to work, right to education and right to public assistance in certain cases. The state shall, within the limits of its economic capacity and development, make effective provisions for securing the right to work, to education and to public assistance in case of unemployment, old age, sickness and disablement, and in other cases of undeserved want. Article 45 before 86th Amendment Act 2002 used to provide that the state shall endeavour to provide early childhood care and education for all children until they complete the age of 14 years. Here the court again repeated the caution clause which has been laid down in Mohini Jain, that is, after reaching the age of 14, the right to education is subject to economic capacity and development of the state. Hence, the petitioner do not have a fundamental right to education to professional degree. Highlighting the expression endeavor mentioned in Article 45, the court held that state under Article 45 is mandated to achieve the goal of providing childhood care and education to the children until they complete the age of 14 years. Article 45 is not a constitutional obligation, rather, it is an attempt. If you read Article 49, there also state is obligated to protect the monuments and places and objects of national importance. It is an obligation clause. There the obligation imposes a mandatory duty upon the state, and here the endeavor provided under Article 45 asks the state to attempt to achieve the goal. Hence, according to the Apex Court, incorporating the right to education under Article 21 makes Article 45 as foreseeable. No more Article 45 remains as endeavor. It changes into obligation, that is, if state is not taking measure to provide early childhood care and education for the children below the age of 14 years, then the same inaction of the state can be challenged for violation of Article 21. That's how right to education to be read as a fundamental right under Article 21 read with Article 41 and 45. Now the other issue which has been dealt in this case is whether education falls under the purview of Article 19 Clause 1 Subclause G. The court held that the commercialization of education is not permissible. The moment education is brought under Article 19 Clause 1 Subclause G, the education becomes part of commerce and competition goals will flow into the system of education. According to the court, education is a service. The court further held that the government educational institutions and aided private educational institutions, being instrumentality of the state by falling under Article 12, are obligated to act fairly in consonance with fundamental rights. That means these institutions share the responsibility of the state laid down under Article 21, read with Article 41, 45 and 46. Now coming to the unaided private education institutions, that is those private education institutions which do not receive any grant from the state. These institutions, though are not financially supported by state, are established or controlled by state, still falls under Article 12 because they are imparting education which is a sovereign function, obligated to fulfill the constitutional duties. But these institutions are not supported by the state in terms of any grant or financial assistance. Hence, what state can control over these institutions is the standards of education which are incorporated which are imposed upon every educational institution for maintaining the quality in the education. Now these private unaided educational institutions are required to comply only with regard to the quality or standards of education and infrastructure laid down by the state rules. Other than that, with regard to the affairs of admission, fee, appointment of staff, etc., state cannot interfere into these unaided private educational institutions. The court, after analysis, held that a teacher can claim Article 19 Clause 1 Subclause G under the head profession or even under occupation. But establishing educational institution cannot be called profession or occupation. Further, it cannot be brought under trade or business because trade or business is related to commercialization of goods, not for commercialization of educational services. Hence, the court concluded that educational institutions cannot claim fundamental right under Article 19 Clause 1 Subclause G. Now coming to the next question which has been raised, whether the private educational institutions have a fundamental right to recognition or affiliation, whether such a right can be inferred by reading under Article 19 Clause 1 Subclause G and Article 30. Here the private educational institution means the private minority educational institution when you are referring to Article 30. Otherwise, it may be private, minority or non-minority educational institution. Now coming to the answers to these questions, the court held no, private educational institutions do not have a fundamental right to recognition or affiliation. Now coming on to the private minority educational institutions. Do they enjoy such fundamental right to recognition or affiliation read with Article 30? The court said no. Recognition or affiliation is purely on the basis of fulfillment of the required compliances laid down by the state. So these compliances or norms are developed to ensure the quality education in the country. State has sovereign right to cancel the recognition or affiliation of an educational institution the moment the private educational institution, be it minority or non-minority, fails to comply the norms. Now coming to the second question, the court held that educational institutions are not guaranteed Article 19 clause 1 subclause G. I already explained the reasons for the same. And Article 30 is a fundamental right, though guaranteed to the religious or linguistic minorities, to establish private educational institutions which may be aided or unaided according to their own choice, even though these institutions are also required to comply the norms or standards of education set by state to ensure the quality education. Hence, Article 30 do not guarantee fundamental right to recognition or affiliation under its ambit. Finally, the judgment in this case is as follows. Private educational aided educational institutions are governed by government regulations. Unaided institutions cannot be compelled to charge the same fee as like government institutions. Commercialization of education is not permitted. Business and trade cannot be applied for education. Coming to profession, teaching can be considered as profession but not establishing educational institution. No educational institution has right to recognition. Private educational institutions merely supplement the efforts of the state in educating the people. It is not an independent activity. In the year 2002, on the influence of Mohini Jain and Unikrishnan case, Article 21A was inserted into the Constitution via 86th Amendment Act. Article 21A guaranteed right to education. It provides that the state shall provide free and compulsory education to all children of the age of 6 to 14 years in such a manner as the state may by law determine. Further, Article 45 was amended. Now the age of the children under Article 45 has been reduced to 6 years. Article 21 Clause A covers the children between the age of 6 to 14 years, and Article 45 deals with the children below the age of 6 years. We can see Anganwadi schools which are run by the state to comply with Article 45, and Right to Education Act, which deals with the educational right of children between the age of 6 to 14 years, strengthens Article 21A. And now to recollect, by virtue of Mohini Jain case, right to education is a fundamental right guaranteed under Article 21. Now, by virtue of 86th Amendment Act 2002, right to education to the children between 6 to 14 years is a fundamental right guaranteed under 21A. And the educational interests of the children below the age of 6 years are dealt under Article 45. Educational institutions are denied fundamental right to 19 Clause 1 subclause C, and these private or minority educational institutions, either aided or unaided, are now subject to Article 21 and 21A and other state norms set up with regard to grant of affiliation or recognition. TMA Pai Foundation and others versus State of Karnataka. A 5-judge bench in this case held that Article 30 do not clothe a minority educational institution with the power to adopt its own method of selection, and the correctness of the decision laid down in St. Stephen College versus University of Delhi was doubted. Later, the matter was placed before a 7-judge bench. The 7-judge bench directed that the matter to be placed before the 11-judge bench. Now, the first question is there a fundamental right to set up educational institution, and if so, under which provision? The court held that Article 19 Clause 1 Subclause G gives right to all citizens to practice any profession including establishing educational institution. Now coming to the second part of the judgment, Article 19 Clause 1 Subclause G read with Article 26 gives right to religious denominations to establish and maintain an institution for religious purpose which would include an educational institution. Article 19 Clause 1 Subclause G read with Article 30 Clause 1 gives right to religious and linguistic minorities to establish educational institutions. Again, the minority education institutions are given a fundamental right guaranteed under Article 30. Coming to the second question, that is whether the right to establish education institution can be said to be carrying on any occupation within the meaning of Article 19 Clause 1 Subclause G. The court held that establishing educational institution is not a commercial activity, hence do not fall under the heads trade or business laid down under Article 19 Clause 1 Subclause G. Further, the court held that unaided private educational institutions cannot be equated with either government institutions or private aided institutions. Since the unaided private educational institutions are not funded by the state, unlike government institutions and aided private institutions, the state cannot ask these unaided private educational institutions to reduce the fee or interfere into the admission or appointment matters. Now coming to the third question. In case of private institutions, can there be government regulations, and if so, to what extent? While dealing with this issue, the court explained the types of educational institutions existing in India. First, the educational institutions can be classified as government and private. Private educational institutions can be further classified as private educational institutions established by non-minorities and private educational institutions established by minorities, either religious or linguistic. Further, the non-minority private educational institutions can be classified as aided or unaided. And in the same way, the minority private educational institutions can also be classified as aided or unaided. We do not need to discuss about government institutions. The whole debate is about private educational institutions. That no citizen shall be denied admission into any education institution maintained by the state or receiving aid out of state funds on grounds only of religion, race, caste, language, or any of them. Further, these private aided non-minority educational institutions are also governed by the reasonable restrictions laid down under Article 19 Clause 6 because they have been guaranteed fundamental right under Article 19 Clause 1 Subclause G under the head profession. Now coming to the private unaided minority educational institutions, which includes professional colleges, schools, etc. These institutions are free from state control except for imparting quality and standard of education as per norms. The state has no control or hold on the admissions, employment, fee, etc. of these institutions. State do not give money to them. They had to survive with the fees of the students. Hence, employment matters are also not governed according to state rules. Now coming to the minority aided institutions. They are regulated by Article 29 Clause 2 but are protected under Article 30 Clause 1 and 2. Coming to minority unaided educational institutions. These are not regulated by Article 29 Clause 2 because they are unaided but are protected under Article 30 Clause 1 and 2 because they are minority. To conclude, all private minority institutions, either aided or unaided, has an additional constitutional protection under Article 30 Clause 1 and 2 to establish institutions according to their own choice and to maintain them with freedom. Private aided non-minority has to follow the state because they receive funds. They have no freedom from state interference. Now coming to the category of private unaided non-minority educational institutions who are subjected to Article 19 Clause 6 and Article 29 Clause 2 and do not enjoy any fundamental right under Article 30 Clause 1 and 2. They have the following rights. right to admit students, right to set up a reasonable fee structure, right to constitute a governing body, right to appoint staff, either teaching or non-teaching, right to take action in case of dereliction of duty by the employees. Here, do remember these are unaided minority and non-minority educational institutions. They do not receive any grant from the state. Now the question is whether state can control such institutions. If yes, to what extent? The court at this juncture laid down that state aid is different from state control. State, without granting any single penny to these institutions, can control these institutions for ensuring quality and standard in the education. According to court, it is unfair to apply same rules and regulations regulating admission to both aided and unaided private professional institutions. Management shall be given autonomy in selection of students, hiring of the staff, etc. Once aid is granted to a private professional educational institution, the government or the state agency, as a condition of the grant of aid, can put fetters on the freedom in matters of administration and management of the institution. Now, coming to the question whether reservation chart can be imposed on private unaided minority institutions. The court held that no reservation chart can be imposed on unaided minority professional institutions because they do not receive money or grant or financial support from the state for their maintenance. They had to fulfill their monetary needs from the fee collected or revenue generated. If reservation is to be provided, there shall be relaxation of fee, and if there is relaxation of fee, the survivability of the institution will become difficult. Now, coming to the question whether reservation chart can be imposed on private aided minority institutions. To understand this question, it is important to learn the following. What are minority institutions? Why are they established? Why a special fundamental right is conferred upon them through constitutional safeguards? Now, coming to the first question, what are minority institutions? Article 30, Clause 1 deals with two types of minorities. First is the linguistic minorities, and the second one is the religious minorities. How do we determine the minority? In general, if a community is less than 50% of the total population, we call it as a minority. And other communities which are more than 50% are called majority. This question, how do we determine minority, came into existence because via 42nd Amendment Act, the entry education which was there in the state list, that is list 2 under 7 schedule, was shifted to concurrent list, that is list 3. Now not only the states but also the central government can establish education institutions apart from its power to establish institutions specified under entries 62, 63, 64 and 65. The court here mentioned that minority to be determined on the basis of state. If the said religious or linguistic group population is less than 50% of the total population of the state, it can be called minority. So hence the court clarified that even if it is a institution of national character, still the determination of the minority shall be on the basis of state. Now let us understand the scope of the rights guaranteed under Article 30 Clause 1. Article 30 Clause 1 is a fundamental right which provides all minority, whether based on religion or language, shall have the right to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. A right to establish and administer means to establish the institutions on their own rules, and administer means to admit students and offer them the subjects related to minority interest, to engage employees, that is teaching and non-teaching staff from the minority communities. Here the institution can admit the students of minority character, offer them the religious teachings or language course, can employ the teachers or minority non-teaching staff from the minority community. For example, if there is a Bengali minority school established in Ranchi, that institution will have right to admit Bengali students, offer Bengali language as course, employ Bengali faculty and Bengali non-teaching staff. But the question is whether the right guaranteed to minority institutions is absolute. That is, are they having right to operate independently without any state interference in any matter? No. No right, including fundamental right, can be absolute. This is a fundamental rule. There shall be limitations upon every right, hence, Article 30, Clause 1 should also have a limitation. But giving interpretation to the limitation, public or private interest will convert Article 30, Clause 1 into a teasing illusion, a promise of unreality, because minorities are granted via doctrine of democracy a protection under the Indian Constitution. Hence, balance to be maintained. Here, the state interference comes while imposing standards of education, quality of education. The minority institutions, if are offering courses of public character, that is running CBSE classes, then they have to adhere to CBSE standards. If are offering degrees which are recognized by UGC, then they had to adhere to the UGC prescribed standards. In addition to the courses of public character, these minority institutions offer other courses to preach about their minority religion or minority language. There, the state interference will be limited. Suppose if a Bengali minority educational institution is admitting 50% of the students only from minority community and others from open community, the school cannot insist the students of the open community to study Bengali as third language. Hence, their freedom guaranteed under Article 30 Clause 1 is limited to the activities which are relevant to maintain the minority character. That's how the balance can be maintained between public interest and private interest. Now coming to the admission process in minority institutions. If the minority institutions consists of only minority character, 100% of the seats will be reserved for minorities. If the minority institutions consist of both minority and public character, then minimum 50% of seats will be reserved for minorities and rest through open admission process. But here, minimum 50% of the seats shall be reserved for minorities to maintain the minority character. If not, these institutions lose their minority character. That is, working for the promotion and preservation of their religious culture or linguistic culture. Now, coming to the question, what sort of students are admitted on the basis of minority reservation? If suppose it is a linguistic minority institution established for promoting Telugu language in Jharkhand, the minority students will be of that section of population whose origin is from Andhra Pradesh or Telangana. In that group of minority students, irrespective of their caste and religion, all types of students shall be offered admission, which may include Muslims, SCs, STs, backward classes, etc. Hence, automatically, the minority group becomes a hybrid combination of religions, castes, etc. But still, when the question with regard to application of reservation chart to minorities was raised, the court held that all minority and non-minority private institutions, either aided or unaided, shall follow the reservation chart. Merit to be maintained, hence admission test is compulsory in both minority and non-minority private institutions, either aided or unaided. National interest will prevail over minority interest in terms of merit. A right to grant is not provided under Article 30. According to Article 30 Clause 2, the state shall not, in granting aid to educational institutions, minority educational institutions, discriminate against any educational institution on the ground that it is under the management of a minority, whether based on religion or language. For institutions receiving grant, Article 29 Clause 2 becomes a limitation. The minority educational institutions considered this judgment as a blow on their fundamental right guaranteed under Article 30, Clause 1, because reservation chart is made applicable on them and merit based admission process is made applicable for them. This judgment created a havoc among the minority educational institutions, resulting into Islamic Academy of Education and others versus State of Karnataka. The TMA Pai Foundation judgment was interpreted by the Union of India, state governments, and educational institutions in their own way. That led to multiple litigations, and all these litigations were placed before the 5-judge bench. The bench was set to clear or clarify the doubts or anomalies. Most of the petitioners are unaided private professional educational institutions, both minority and non-minority. The questions whether the educational institutions are entitled to fix their own fee structure. Answer is yes, state cannot fix a rigid fee structure because educational institutions have to meet their own monetary demands. Now coming to the second question, whether minority and non-minority educational institutions stand on same footing and have the same rights. The question which has been raised in the TMA Pai Foundation case. Here the court said no. Minority education institutions are established as per Article 30, Clause 1, and they have fundamental freedom to establish and administer the institutions of their choice. Article 30 ensures the special protection and equal protection to minorities. Hence, the government may take over the non-minority educational institutions but cannot take over the minority educational institutions even on the ground of national or public interest. So this is a case. On this point, the court differed from Unnikrishnan as well as TMA Pai Foundation. Now coming to question number 3 and 4, that is whether private unaided professional college, minority or non-minority, is entitled to fill its seats to the extent of 100%, and if not, to what extent, and whether private unaided professional colleges, minority or non-minority, are entitled to admit students by evolving their own method of admission. The court with regard to question number 3 and 4 held that merit cannot be compromised. National interest prevails over minority interest. So here the court reiterated the rule laid down in TMA Pai Foundation case as well as Unnikrishnan case, that is national interest prevails over minority interest. Now coming to the PA Inamdar and others versus State of Maharashtra. The issues raised in this case are: to what extent the state can regulate the admissions made by unaided minority or non-minority educational institutions? Can the state enforce its policy of reservation and or appreciate to itself any quota in admissions to such institutions? Whether unaided minority and non-minority educational institutions are free to devise their own admission procedure, or whether directions made in Islamic Academy for compulsory holding entrance test by the state or association of institutions and to choose therefrom the students entitled to admission in such institutions can be sustained in light of the law laid down in Pai Foundation. Whether Islamic Academy could have issued guidelines in the matter of regulating the fee payable by the students to the educational institutions. Can the admission procedure and fee structure be regulated or taken over by the committees ordered to be constituted by Islamic Academy? In this case, the court ruled that minority institutions, either aided or unaided, cannot be equated with private institutions, either aided or unaided, because minority institutions enjoy protection under Article 30, Clause 1, which is a fundamental right, as well as constitutional safeguard to protect the interests of the minorities. As these minority education institutions are required to maintain their minority character by admitting students of the minority community, which includes SCs, STs, backward classes, forward classes, etc., further imposition of reservation upon them will hamper their quality of admission as well as administration of the institution. Aided minority shall follow reservation chart within 50% seats which are meant for open admission. They are protected under Article 30 Clause 1 only for those 50% of seats which are meant for minority admission. Unaided minority educational institution is not required to follow reservation chart as their 100% seats are reserved for minorities. If they have any open admission, then also not required since no grant is received, that is Article 29 Clause 2 will not be applicable but are protected under Article 30 Clause 1. Private education institutions, either aided or unaided, shall follow the reservation chart because they do not enjoy right under Article 19 Clause 1 Subclause G nor contain any other fundamental right. Rather, they being state instrumentality shall contribute in furthering the constitutional goals. After the entire debate, controversy, and interpretation, the Parliament enacted the Constitution 93rd Amendment Act 2005 with an objective to bring private educational institutions under the reservation policy. The statement of the objects and reasons of the Amendment Act provides that greater access to higher education, including professional education to a larger number of students belonging to the socially and educationally backward classes of citizens or for the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, has been a matter of major concern. At present, the number of seats available in aided or state maintained institutions, particularly in respect of professional education, is limited in comparison to those in private unaided institutions. With this objective, Article 15 Clause 5 was inserted. As the previous judgments considered the right to profession of the private educational institutions under Article 19 Clause 1 Subclause G, Article 15 Clause 5 was designed to act as an exception to Article 15 Clause 5. Exception to Article 19 Clause 1 Subclause G to save the reservation process applicable on private educational institutions from constitutional invalidity. Further, as reservation includes caste, religion as major components, Article 15 Clause 5 was created as an exception to Article 15 Clause 1 to save the reservation process from constitutional invalidity. Now coming to Article 15 Clause 6. Article 15 Clause 6 was inserted into the Constitution via Constitution 103rd Amendment Act 2019. It provides that nothing in this article or subclause G of clause 1 of Article 19 or clause 2 of Article 29 shall prevent the state from making any special provision for the advancement of any economically weaker sections of citizens other than the classes mentioned in clauses 4 and 5 and subclause B, any special provision for the advancement of any economically weaker sections of citizens other than the classes mentioned in clauses 4 and 5 insofar as such special provisions relate to their admission to educational institutions including private educational institutions whether aided or unaided by the state other than the minority educational institutions referred to in clause 1 of Article 30, which in the case of reservation would be in addition to the existing reservations and subject to a maximum of 10% of the total seats in each category. The reservation for the new category will be over and above the existing scheme of reservation, that is 15% for SCs, 7.5% for STs and 27% for the OBC non-creamy layer category. Thus, the total reservation including this 10% is now coming to 59.5%. The explanation provides that economically weaker sections shall be such as may be notified by the state from time to time based on family income and other indicators of economic disadvantage. Despite of Article 15 Clause 4 and 15 Clause 5, economically weaker sections were not eligible for the benefit of reservation. To fulfill the mandate of Article 46 and to ensure that economically weaker sections of citizens to get a fair chance, Article 15 Clause 6 was inserted. Hence, The said amendment, which is providing the reservation for economically weaker sections of the society in higher educational institutions, including private institutions, excluding minority institutions, is to promote the educational interests of the socially and economically weaker sections. Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India, in its Office Memorandum number 20013 oblique 2018 BC 2 dated January 17, 2019, stipulated that only persons whose families have a gross annual income less than 8 lakhs or agricultural land less than 5 acres or residential flat less than 1000 square feet are residential plots less than 100 square yards in notified municipalities are residential plots less than 200 square yards in areas other than notified municipalities are to be identified as economically weaker sections for the benefit of reservation. Now, for the purpose of the constitutional validity of Article 15 Clause 6 or for arguments for and against Article 15 Clause 6, read the document Policy Watch number 9, that is, can the 10% quota for economically weaker sections survive judicial scrutiny? Written by K. Ashok Vardhan Shetty, published by the Hindu Center Politics and Public Policy, shared in WhatsApp group. Further, watch Article 15 movie, read referred case laws from primary sources, post questions on WhatsApp or email. We can have Zoom class for clearing doubts. Thank you.